What do you mean it's the one that was stolen, the one Midge was wearing?
I told you, my housekeeper, Mrs. Lincoln, lost her poodle. We advertised for it, and some people called Bannister.
Now, wait a minute. You're sure that's the collar, the one that was on the poodle?
Yes, I'm sure.
Then what the devil did the note mean? This is why your father was killed.
I don't know, I just can't imagine.
All right, Kelly, start from the beginning. Tell me the whole story.
Well, I've already told you.
Tell me again.
Well, my housekeeper, Mrs. Lincoln, has a poodle, Midge. It disappeared, so we advertised for it in the local paper. Now, yesterday morning, I had a phone call from a woman called Mrs. Iris Bannister saying she'd found the dog. Well, I drove over to her house. It's a house called Stillwater in Lawrence Avenue. It's on Kingston Hill. Well, the dog was all right, but the collar was missing.
What time was this?
It was about 12:15.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Well, as I was leaving, I mentioned the reward. And Charles Bannister, that's the husband, he suggested I give the fiver to his local charity. He asked me to make the check out to the secretary, Basil Higgs.
I see. I take it you've never met the Bannisters before?
No, never. I never even heard of them. They seem very nice. I mean, he's an invalid. He's in a wheelchair.
Right. Tell me about the collar. Where did it come from originally?
I don't know where it came from. All I know is that my father gave it to Mrs. Lincoln for her birthday.
When was this?
It was about a month ago. Unfortunately, Mrs. Lincoln's away. Her nephew's got flu or something or other, and she's looking after him for a few days. Hey, wait a minute. I wonder if Liz could help us.
Liz?
Yes, Liz Mason. She works in the shop.
How can she help us?
Well, my father hadn't the faintest notion what to give Mrs. Lincoln, and he asked Liz about it.
And she suggested a dog collar for the poodle.
Yes, at least I think she did.
Right, Kerry. Talk to her about it. Show her the collar, see what she says. Ask if she knows where your father got it from.
What the devil was Delaney getting at? I just can't imagine what he meant.
Neither can I. Seems a perfectly ordinary collar to me. A little ornate, perhaps. I'd like to see you later this morning in my office, Kerry. Can you be there about 11 o'clock?
Yes, I shall be in the building. They're taking my prints later on this morning.
It's routine. We're giving your car another going over.
Hello, Jack. Is Bromford here?
Yes, he is indeed. Come on in.
Hello, Ed.
Good morning, sir. I've just come from Delaney's place. Things are beginning to get interesting.
What do you mean, interesting?
Well, we were just leaving the flat when Jackson found a door behind what we thought was the larder. Well, there was a small room fitted up as an office. Desk, typewriter, filing cabinet, all the usual office paraphernalia.
Well,
We've just spent a fascinating half hour going through the contents of the filing cabinet, to mention nothing of the desk.
get to the point.
What did you find, Ed?
Well, this is just a small sample.
I know this girl. She's a prostitute. She gave evidence in a case at Oxford about 6 months ago.
Well, it's my guess that all prostitutes, every one of them. There's over 200 photographs in that room, sir.
200?
That's right, but no names, no phone numbers, no addresses, no details of any kind, just the photographs.
What the devil was Delaney up to?
It certainly looks like the same collar. But where did you get it from, Mr. Carey? I thought you said that Midge wasn't wearing a collar when she was found.
You don't worry about that, Liz. All I want to know is it the same collar? Is it the one my father bought?
Yes. The medallion looks a little different, but
What do you mean, different?
I thought the medallion seemed a little smaller. No, it's the same collar, I'm sure of it.
Where did my father get it? Do you know?
Yes, he bought it at Penn's Pet Shop.
Where's that?
In Valence Road.
Did you send him there?
No. Douglas did. We were talking about Mrs. Lincoln one morning, and your father said he didn't know what on earth to buy her for her birthday. I suggested a collar because Mrs. Lincoln's crazy about them. She's always spending her own money on Midge.
Mrs. Lincoln is?
Yes, and Douglas said there was only one place to buy a collar, and that was at Penn's Pet Shop.
Yes, all right, thanks, Liz. Oh, no, there is something else.
Yes, Mr. Carey?
Well, you saw a lot of my father. You saw him most days, in fact. Did he ever say anything or do anything that you thought unusual?
No, I don't think so.
You sure?
Well, there was one incident. Oh, but it was nothing. It really wasn't anything important.
Now, tell me about it, Liz.
One day last week, I think it was Tuesday, I came back from lunch and I heard your father talking to a customer. At least I assumed she was a customer.
She?
Yes, a tall, dark, good-looking woman of about 40, very smartly dressed. When I entered the shop, I heard your father say, "For God's sake, Iris, don't be so difficult." And then suddenly he saw me and started talking about something quite different. I came in here and a few minutes later the woman left.
Did he ever mention this? I mean, make any comment?
Yes, he made a point of telling me he'd never seen her before. Said she was looking for a special kind of ski jacket.
Did you believe him?
Well, I didn't know whether to believe him or not. It certainly sounded convincing.
All right, thank you, Liz. Did you tell Douglas about this?
No, I didn't tell anyone. It didn't seem to me to be important. Besides, it was none of my business.
You do now. Hey, what do you think? That's it. Huh?
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Mr. Penn?
Yes. What can I do for you, sir?
I'm a police officer from Scotland Yard. I'm making a few inquiries. I thought you might be able to help me.
Well, if I can, my dear sir, I most certainly will. What is it you're making inquiries about?
About this collar. I understand my father, Bob Kerry, bought it from you.
Are you Mr. Kerry's son?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Kerry, I'm delighted to meet you, but... Oh, I was so distressed to read about your father. What a dreadful thing to have happened.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. Did you know him?
No, we met, of course, when he bought the collar. I'd admired him for years. I was very thrilled when he came into my shop that afternoon. You'll find this hard to believe, Mr. Kerry, but I was quite an athlete myself in the old days.
I want you to take a look at this collar, Mr. Penn, and tell me firstly whether it is the one you sold my father, and secondly whether there's, well, anything unusual about it.
Yes, this is the collar your father bought, so far as I can tell.
You're not sure?
Well, I've sold quite a few like this, of course, and they're all very much alike, you know. As you see, I've got quite a stock on hand at the moment. Some are a little more decorative than the others, perhaps, but they're all more or less the same. No, I don't see anything unusual in this one, Mr. Kerry.
What about the medallion? Is that the same? Or has it been changed?
No, it's exactly the same to me. But you do realize that I didn't supply this medallion. Your father brought it with him.
He brought it with him?
Yes. No, I'm most terribly sorry. I just remembered. His friend brought it. That's right. Your father was trying to make up his mind whether to buy the collar or not, and then his friend arrived. And she said that it was absolutely perfect and just the very thing he wanted.
And she brought the medallion?
That's right. She took it out of her handbag, and then I fitted it onto the collar. They were both highly delighted with it.
Was the name and the phone number already on the medallion? Or did you put it on?
No, it was already on.
Who was this friend of my father's, do you know?
I'm afraid I don't. She seemed a very charming lady.
Was she about 40? Tall, dark, very well dressed?
Yes, she was wearing one of those lovely fur coats. What do you call it? Ocelot? That's right, ocelot.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Penn. You've been very helpful.
Thank you, sir. I do hope we shall meet again, Mr. Kerry.
The superintendent hasn't returned from Kingston yet, sir.
Kingston?
Yes, sir. He went out there first thing this morning.
All right, Hodges, I'll wait.
I think Inspector Royce is in the other office, sir.
Jack, I've been trying to get hold of you. You're just a bloke I want to see.
What is it, eh?
Well, take a look at that. And do you recognize her?
Yes, this is the girl I saw with Delaney in the car, I think. It's the one I told you about, the one who was having the row with him.
Yes, I was hoping you'd say that.
Who is she, Ed?
Her name's Kathy White, and she's been living with Delaney. Last night they had dinner together at a place in Charlotte Street. Now, apparently they had a flaming row and left the restaurant together about 9:30.
Have you picked her up?
Not yet.
Oh, for God's sake, Ed, why not?
Why not? My God, you sound just like Bromford because we can't find her, Jack. That's why not.
Well, did she go back to the flat with Delaney?
Well, we don't know. That's what we're trying to find out.
Well, where does she come from? What's her background, Ed?
Oh, she's from Liverpool. Apparently Delaney saw her in a show there and persuaded her to come to town. She was in a musical. The one at the St. Edwards, the one that flopped. Until about a month ago, she was in digs at Nottingham Gate. Then she moved in with Delaney.
Who told you all this?
Her ex-landlady.
What about Delaney?
Oh, there, we're not making any progress, I'm afraid. No one wants to talk about it. All we do know for certain is that he had a private income and backed 1 or 2 shows in the West End, including the flop that Kathy was in. Anyway, I've asked Sergeant Quilter to snoop around. He usually comes up with something.
Look, Ed, whatever happens, you've got to find this girl.
Oh, don't worry, I'll find her.
Sorry to have kept you. Been out. Any luck? Picked up the girl yet?
Well, not yet, sir, but Jack's identified her. She was the girl in that car, and her landlady now...
I don't want to hear any more about the landlady. I want that girl, Kathy White. Find her.
We'll be finished with your car by about 3 o'clock, Jack, if you want to pick it up.
Yeah, thanks, Ed.
Sit down, Carey. I saw the Bannisters this morning.
Yes, I thought perhaps you had.
They confirmed your story about the dog.
Well, I'm pleased to hear it. What did you expect?
I think perhaps I better tell you what happened this morning, Gary. I arrived at the house at about 9:15. There was a Bentley on the drive, and a rather good-looking woman was standing near the bonnet of the car. I knew from what you told me that she was Mrs. Bannister. Mrs. Bannister.
Yes.
Good morning, Mrs. Bannister. I'm from Scotland Yard, Superintendent Bromford. I'd be very grateful if you could spare me a moment.
Well, of course, Superintendent, but I'm afraid it will only have to be a moment. My husband and I are leaving for Aldeburgh, and we're late as it is.
Don't worry, madam, I won't detain you. I'm just asking a few questions on behalf of a friend of mine, Jack Carey.
Mr. Carey?
Yes. I think you saw Mr. Carey yesterday afternoon.
That's right, we did. My husband found his dog, or rather his housekeeper's, and I telephoned him. He was out here just before lunch.
Yes, so I understand. I also understand he gave your husband a check.
Check?
Yes, for £5.
I think you're mistaken, Superintendent. Well, here is my husband now. Why don't you have a word with him? Charles, this is Superintendent Bromford. He's from Scotland Yard.
Oh, good morning, Superintendent. What can I do for you?
I'm making inquiries about a check, sir. The one Mr. Carey gave me.
The one Mr. Carey gave me. Well, aren't you mistaken? I don't know anything about a check. Mr. Carey came out here to collect a poodle.
Do you mind telling me what happened yesterday afternoon, Mr. Bannister?
What happened?
Yes, between you and Mr. Carey.
Nothing happened. He simply collected the poodle, and we had a little chat about the fact the dog's collar was missing, and that was it. I don't suppose he was with us more than about 5 minutes.
I see.
It's quite true, Superintendent.
Look, what is this, old man? What's this all about?
I've obviously been under a misapprehension. I thought Carey gave you a check made out of someone called Higgs.
Why on earth should he do that? Higgs, did you say?
Yes, Basil Higgs.
I don't know anyone called Basil Higgs.
I understood he was secretary of a local charitable organization of which you are a member, sir.
Well, then you must have understood wrongly, Superintendent. I'm not a member of any charitable organization.
I see. Sorry to have troubled you, sir. By the way, there was just one other thing.
Yes?
You don't mind my asking?
No, go ahead.
When you saw Mr. Carey yesterday afternoon, were you by any chance, for any reason at all, in a wheelchair?
In a wheelchair?
Yes.
You mean an invalid chair?
Yes, Mrs. Bannister.
Good God, no. Why should I be in a wheelchair? I may look a bit senile, old boy, but I haven't quite reached the bath chair stage. Not yet. Have I, Iris?
Not yet, darling.
I see. Thank you, sir, Mrs. Bannister. You've been most helpful. I hope you have a very pleasant journey. After I'd left the Bannisters, I called in on an old friend of mine, Inspector Everson. He knows that area better than you know your flat, Carey. He should do. He's been there for years. I questioned the inspector about the Bannisters. He said that Charles Bannister was a retired stockbroker. He bought Stillwater in 1963, paid over £30,000 for it. I also mentioned the wheelchair. Bannister's as fit as a fiddle. He plays squash twice a week, golf on Sundays.
Look, I don't care whether he plays squash, golf, tennis, or anything else. He was in a wheelchair when I saw him yesterday morning. My good God, why should I say a thing like that if it wasn't true?
I can't imagine why.
You don't believe me, do you?
Tell me about that dog collar.
It was bought by my father.
What is it, Ed?
I just had a call from Sergeant Quilter. He's found out something about Delaney, something we didn't know.
Well?
Well, his name wasn't Rupert Delaney. That was only a name he used because he disliked his own so much. His real name was Higgs. Basil Higgs.
Hello, Douglas. Nearly finished for the day?
Hello, Jack. Yes, nearly finished.
What sort of a day has it been?
Oh, it's been pretty good. I was surprised because it was quiet first thing, and then suddenly at about 12:30, we were rushed off our feet. By the way, who do you think phoned just after you left this morning? Your housekeeper's nephew, Leonard Lincoln.
Leonard Lincoln?
Yes, the extraordinary thing is, he said he wanted to talk to his aunt. He said he tried your flat.
I thought he had I thought she was looking after him.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's what I told him, but apparently it wasn't true.
What did he say?
The poor man was embarrassed. He didn't know what to say. Do you think she's walked out on you, Jack?
Well, it's beginning to sound like it.
Incidentally, I told him Midge was back. He said he'd tell his aunt when she got in touch with him. Is there any news?
News?
Yeah, about the Delaney murder.
Ah, yes, yeah. We're looking for a girl called Kathy White.
Oh, is she the girl you told me about? The one you saw in the car?
She and Delaney had dinner together last night.
Did she do it?
Do what?
The murder?
Well, I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, but could she have done it? I mean, could a woman have committed the murder?
Well, why not? He was shot. He wasn't strangled or anything like that. You look, Douglas, I'll look up, eh?
Yes, okay, Jack.
Oh, hello, Mr. Carey. I was hoping to see you.
Were you, Mrs. Lincoln? I trust your nephew has fully recovered from the flu.
Oh, yes, thank you. Mr. Carey, I'm afraid I owe you an apology. I lied to you about Leonard. Well, to cut a long story short...
You've got another job, Mrs. Lincoln?
Yes, I have. I've taken a job at that new Knightsbridge Hotel, the Royal Plaza.
Why on earth didn't you tell me about it?
I just didn't know what to do. After your father died, I don't know. I just couldn't settle, Mr. Jack. Oh, I'm sorry, very sorry. You've always been kind to me, and I don't want to appear ungrateful.
No, Mrs. Lincoln, you're quite at liberty to get another job. I rather thought you would, but why on earth didn't you...
I told you, I apologise, Mr. Carey. I behaved badly. I'm really very sorry about it.
Do I owe you any money?
Oh, no, we're all square. Thank you, sir.
Well, anyway, we found Midge for you.
Yes. You can imagine how thrilled I was when I heard about it. I just couldn't believe it.
How did you hear about it, Mrs. Lincoln?
Well, I spoke to Leonard this afternoon, and he told me. Incidentally, what's happened to the collar, Mr. Carey? Midge's collar. Was it stolen?
Yes.
Oh, what a shame. It's such a lovely little collar. It was a present from your father, too, you know. A birthday present.
Curiously enough, it was both stolen and returned, Mrs. Lincoln.
Returned?
Yes. At the moment, Superintendent Bromford's got it.
Superintendent Bromford? Well, why on earth have the police got it? Or do they think Midge was stolen then?
Look, I can't hang about here much longer, lady. I shall be in trouble, real trouble, if you don't get a move on.
I'll be there in a minute.
Now, please, lady. There's an officious basket out there, a right stinker.
Oh, by the way, Mrs. Lincoln, there was something I wanted to ask you. Did my father ever mention a man called Bannister to you?
Bannister? No, I don't think so.
So you've never heard the name at all?
No, I haven't. I'm rather good at names. I'm sure I would have remembered if your father had mentioned it at all. And Mr. Carey, you will have to excuse me.
Yes, all right, Mrs. Lincoln. Goodbye. Good luck with the new job.
Oh, thank you. Well, say goodbye to Mr. Carey, Midge.
Putney, 3302.
Mr. Carey?
Yes, speaking.
I was a friend of Rupert Delaney. My name's Kathy White.
Kathy White?
I'm in trouble, Mr. Carey. Terrible trouble. And I'd like to talk to you before I give myself up. Could we meet sometime tonight, if possible?
Well, yes, of course. Where are you? Where are you speaking from?
I'm in a restaurant. It's called Petrione's in Notting Hill Gate.
Right, you stay where you are. I'll be with you in 15 minutes.
Left my gloves behind. Be with you in a minute.
way to Scotland Yard? What is this? What the hell do you think you're...
Who are you? What do you want?
You know damn well who I am. I'm Jack Kerry. I am Inspector Kerry. You phoned me.
I did?
Yes.
No.
You said you wanted to see me.
No.
You said... You mean it wasn't you on the phone?
No. No, it wasn't. Did someone really phone you and pretend to be me?
Yes, they did.
Was a tip-off they knew I was at the restaurant?
Who's they? You know, we've been looking all over for you. We wanted to question you about the Delaney murder.
I didn't kill Rupert. I didn't have anything to do with it.
We never said you did, but we still got to question you.
I don't know anything about the murder. There's nothing I can tell you.
There's a great deal you can tell us. You've been living with Delaney. You've been living with him for over a month now.
I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Look, Kathy, if you didn't...
Don't call me Kathy. When I want you to call me Kathy, I'll say so. Where are you taking me to?
Scotland Yard. I want you to meet a friend of mine, Inspector Royce. He's in charge of the case.
I know Royce.
You know him?
I've seen him around. Ed Royce. I'm glad he's a friend of yours. Do we have to go to Scotland Yard?
Yes, I'm afraid we do.
Can we go somewhere else?
Where do you suggest?
Your flat?
Now, why should we go to my flat, Miss White? Would you give me one good reason?
We could talk better.
Thought you didn't want to talk.
I don't, not about Rupert. But if we went to your flat, we could talk about other things.
What other things? What other things, Miss White?
We could talk about your father, for instance.
What do you know about my father?
I know who killed him.